Hey everyone, I'm Women International Master Michelle Katharina, and today we're going to be seeing the training game analysis of our Group 1 classes that was held in the first week of October 2021. This game was played between Botvinnik versus Vidmar in the year 1936, and this game was selected from the theme Classics. So the position that you see on the screen, here white has an isolated D pawn. So in isolated queen pawn positions, the side that has the isolated queen pawn plays for short-term advantages such as attack, initiative, space, better development. While the side that is playing against the isolated queen pawn will pay for positional factors and long-term advantages, and such as currently the weak pawn structure that white has. So black ideally wants to exchange pieces as much as possible so that the d4 pawn would become a jarring weakness in the endgame. For example, if you could just visualize this position without these four minor pieces for both white and black, then the d4 pawn would definitely be a huge disadvantage in the endgame. So what white wants to do is he wants to create some dynamics and maybe attack the black's king and get something in exchange for his weak isolated pawn. But black, he wants to exchange pieces and hopefully go to an endgame and eventually grind out a win. So here, Botvinnik played rook a d1. Generally, it's always good to put our rooks on open files, so you might feel maybe rook a c1 is better. But the drawback is black will play rook c8, and eventually he will try to exchange the rooks and pieces on the c file. So in order to prevent this, white played rook a d1. And a general rule to remember is in isolated queen pawn positions, the best place for the rook would be rook d1 and e1, where one rook is defending the isolated pawn while the other rook is on the semi-open file. So white played rook a d1, black played knight b4, attacking the queen, and here Botvinnik went queen h3. So the reason behind going queen h3 is to place the king at close proximity to the opponent's king. So at some point when there's some attack that comes, the queen would participate in the attack. So white played queen h3 and black played bd5, precisely according to his plan. He wants to exchange pieces. Here it will be nice if we can play bishop a4 and not exchange pieces. But black will play bishop c6 and force the exchange of piece. So the only other square the bishop can go would be b3, since c2 is defended by the knight. Goes bd5, and it would be a repetition of moves. So this means that white has to exchange pieces. So it brings us to the question, which piece should we exchange for the d5 bishop? Should we take it with the knight, the bishop, or should we go to a4 and then take this bishop with either the knight or the bishop? So this is a question that we have before us. And here in the game, Botvinnik played knight takes d5. It'll be good if we have a light squared bishop on the board, because maybe at some point we play bishop c2 and have some threats against the h5, the h7 pawn, or we have some threats along this diagonal. So it's better to preserve the bishop. And another thing is that e5 knight is on a really commanding square. So we wouldn't want to exchange the e5 knight for the d5 bishop. So here white took on d5 with the c3 knight. Black took back on d5. And here I really like the way Botvinnik activated the only other piece that's not yet brought into the game, the f1 rook. Rook at p1 is a typical way to improve this rook. And in many games with an isolated queen pawn, you will see white players play rook at e1 in many games. But here, Botvinnik found a really nice idea on how to improve this rook. He played f4. So the idea of f4 is he wants to play f5 and improve the rook. And not only that, by playing f5, we are undermining the defense of the d5 knight to a certain extent. Black played rook c8, developing the rook and putting it in an open file. Well, rooks do belong to open files. And here white proceeded with his idea and pushed f5. Black took on f5, white played rook f5. So now the rook on f5 is in a really good position. We have a lot of pieces near the black king. The queen on h3 is having some eye on the h7 pawn, and some, if there's any attack that comes out in front of the black king, the queen is already there. The bishop is putting some pressure. Whoops, I'm really bad with the arrows. The bishop is already exerting some pressure on the f6 knight and on the h4 d8 diagonal. The e5 knight is in a really good position. And also the b3 bishop, although it is the one piece that is the furthest away from the king, it is still eyeing the king. So here, all white's pieces are in really good positions to attack black's king. Black played queen d6, and if you haven't seen this game before, I would recommend you to pause the video a little bit and think of how white should continue here. So here, as I said, as all of white's pieces are near the black's king, and also the diagonal of this bishop has been opened, the f5 rook is also in a, the file for the f5 rook is also open. Here, white found a beautiful tactic. There are many ways to go about this position here, but the primary idea remains the same. White played knight takes f7. It's pretty shocking. You take on f7, and it seems to be a very well defended spot. This is, oh, can the king defending? So what actually is happening here? So in the game, Vidmar played rook f7, but if black plays king f7, it's directly walking in the pin of this f rook and also the pin of the bishop. And here, white can win a piece in many ways. He can either just take bishop d5 and win the piece. You can't take back with the knight since it's pinned to the king. Or you can first play bishop takes f6 and then take on d5 either with the rook or with the bishop, and white is just up a piece. So in the game, black played rook f7, and it looks like it's the lesser evil, right? There's no pins. But now the c8 rook is undefended. All white has to do is move the f5 rook and the c8 rook will be hanging. And generally, if there are hanging pieces, you should always watch out for tactics. So here again, white has multiple ways to win a piece because the c8 rook is hanging, and also there are so many pins in this position. In the game, Botvinnik found the cleanest, and he took on f6 with the bishop, undermining the defense of the d5 knight. If black plays knight takes f6, then white can just take on f6 with the rook, clearing the path for the queen, and the next move white will take on c8 or can take on f7. Yeah, white is just completely winning here. In the game, black took bishop takes f6, but this drawback is that the d5 knight is undefended, and the white just took it with the rook. And it's already game over. There is a pin, and the f7 rook will fall very soon, and Botvinnik just finished the game beautifully. Played rook d6, opened up the diagonal for the bishop. Black played queen e8, defending the f7 rook and the c8 rook, but after rook d7, there's no way the f7 rook can be defended anymore, and black resigned here. So this is a beautiful display of how you need to attack when you have an isolated queen pawn. And my favorite theme here in this game was how white played f4, f5, developed the f1 rook and also opened the diagonal for the bishop on b3. And yes, the knight f7 sacrifice was the crown of this beautiful activity of pieces. So let's go on to the next position. And this position that you see on the screen is the game that was played between Magnus Carlsen and black was Anish Giri. And this game was played in 2019 in Gashimov Memorial. And this position is taken from the theme of attacking efficiently. Although we know Carlsen as a brilliant endgame player, he is phenomenal in all phases of the game, including attack. Let's get to the position. Here, at first glance, it looks like white is in trouble. He's down a pawn. The d3 pawn is under attack. And it looks like the king on h1 could be a little weak because there's no proper pawn cover. I mean, there's no pawn on the g file. The f pawn has been pushed all the way up to f4. So it looks like maybe white could be in trouble here. But a deeper look at this position, you would realize that it's not white who's in trouble, but it's actually black. Although black is up a pawn, he still hasn't completed his development. His c8 bishop and rook on e8 is sleeping. And although comparatively it looked like the g8 king is safe, the problem here is there's no piece in front of the king. And also the c3 bishop is eyeing the king, and the queen h5 is also in a very promising position and is very close to the black king. So there's a high chance for some attack or some fireworks to come very soon because there's not enough pieces in front of black king. And black is heavily underdeveloped. But again, all black needs is a few moves to develop his pieces, to bring some more pieces next to his king, and he's going to be safe. So will Carlsen give Giri that time to finish whatever he needs to do to keep his king safe, or can Carlsen carry out a successful attack? The current problem is the d3 pawn is falling. So the first few moves that would pop into anyone's mind is, okay, how do I defend the d3 pawn? Should we play d4? Should I play bishop e4 or rook e1 or rook f3? And we initially think of different moves to defend the d3 pawn. But here, Carlsen ignores literally the d3 pawn and he played rook ce1 here. Attacking the queen, playing for initiative, and he's freely willing to give the d3 pawn. He's already a pawn down, and yet he's willing to give another pawn. So the problem here, if black takes on d3, white is going to play f5. Not allowing moves like queen f5 or bishop f5. Mainly, f5 is targeted against the c8 bishop. Now, where can this bishop develop? Only if you develop the bishop, you can develop the a8 rook, right? So if you play something like bishop d7, developing the bishop, then the d6 bishop is hanging. So white just plays rook d1. Wherever black moves the queen, the d6 bishop falls. So black has problems. He can't really develop the c8 bishop. And if you give white a chance, he's maybe going to play bishop e4, rook g1, or some sacrifice on g7 or f6. He has a lot of attacking potential, lot of space, and he's able to bring his pieces quickly to the attack. But the only small price that he has to pay is 2 pawns. So for this reason, Giri did not take on d3, but rather played queen c5, asking for an exchange of queens. Should we exchange queens here or not? Absolutely not. We should not exchange queens here because firstly, we're down a pawn and our pawn structure is really bad. The only thing that white is hoping for here in this position is an attack against the black's king. And if you exchange queens, the intensity of attack would drastically reduce. So you need to keep the queens on the board. So Carlsen declined the queen exchange by f5. Okay, so what if in the game Giri played bishop f8, but what if bishop e6, developing the bishop, threatening bishop d5, making use of this pin on the queen? Here white has queen g4, an attack on g7 and an attack on e6. So double attack and black is losing the piece. So he cannot develop the bishop to e6. Okay, so what if we develop the bishop to d7? I mean, that's black's problem, right? He needs to develop. So here, white has a beautiful way of attacking the black's king. So I would recommend you to pause the video and try to find the best and the cleanest way for white to continue here. So here, white can play the beautiful sacrifice, bishop g7. King g7, f6. King g8, queen h6. And queen g7 made is threatened. We can also bring up pieces, bishop e4, rook g1, or maybe rook e4, rook h4, and just mate the black king. There's no piece in front of it to defend it. And it's mate in a few moves. So here black really has problems. Bishop g7 is a serious threat and he's not able to develop his pieces. So Giri played bishop f8, bringing one piece closer to the king. And now bishop g7 ideas no longer work. So here, since bishop g7 no longer works, now we need to bring more pieces into the game to attack the black's king. So white did that by playing bishop e4 with the idea of rook g1 and then have some sacrifice on g7 or double the rooks and attack the black's king. So although there's no pawn on the g file, the g file is now used by white to bring his rooks into the game. So any move like b6 with the intention of, let's say, bishop a6, white can play rook g1, and if he plays bishop d7, we already have bishop g7 sacrifices. So this is white's idea. And so Giri played rook d5 here. So Giri is willing to give up an exchange in order to somehow defend the position and survive. Generally, when you're defending against such difficult positions, it's good to give up some material advantage that you have in order to protect your king. It's not a great idea to be greedy, wanting to have all the material to yourself and also defend your king. Not everything is possible. So Giri played rook d5. He was hoping for white to play bishop d5, queen d5, and now the white king is in slight danger. He does not have that bishop to protect him, and all the light squares are suddenly a little weak. And this slows down white's attack tremendously. And it seems like although black is down in exchange, he's still able to survive here without too much problems. And yes, of course, Carlsen did not take the rook. He wanted to carry on with his attack. He gave a pawn for that, right? So it will be nice if he can play rook g1, but the drawback of rook g1 is the f5 pawn is hanging, so black can just take it. So we want to play rook g1, but we don't want to give up the f5 pawn and help him develop. So white played rook f3, having the rook on f3 to protect the f5 pawn, and with the idea of swinging the e1 rook to the open g file, which is exactly what we wanted. Black played d5, the idea of b4 and kicking the c3 bishop off this glorious a1 h8 diagonal. But white continued with his idea. He played rook g1 and he placed the rook on the open file. Black played rook a7, having some sort of 7th rank defense. So if something goes wrong, he can play f6, give up the pawn and have the a7 rook defend the g7 pawn. And Carlsen played bishop f6. Yes, no chance of helping that rook out to protect the 7th rank. Here, Giri played g6, and he has a very sneaky idea here. Black wants to play queen takes g1, followed by take on h5. So if you play some very careless move, let's say something like b3 or something, black will take on g1 and take the queen. So even when you're attacking, you need to always pay attention to your opponent's threats. So for this reason, Carlsen just played queen h3. Now, queen g1 is no longer a threat. The computers, however, say that instead of queen h3, rook g6 is already crushing for white. Rook g6, f g6, queen g6, where you sacrifice a rook. And because all your other pieces are aiming at the king, after f6, white's position is completely winning. But Carlsen chose queen h3, which is also very much possible. He still retains all his advantage. And also here, black does not have enough pieces to defend his king. He does not have any counterplay. So we can play the slow approach. It's completely possible. So Carlsen chose queen h3, completely a very human and a playable move. Black played rook d6, attacking the f6 bishop. White played queen h4, defending it, and Carlsen took on f6. The attack was too much to handle, so he took on f6. And Giri played bishop e7. And here Carlsen chose to exchange queens and go to an endgame where he is up in exchange. And not only that, either the g6 or the b5 pawn will fall and eventually the game. Yeah, Carlsen won this endgame without much problems. In less than 10 moves, he wrapped up the game, which is true to his style. But overall, I really like the way Carlsen slowly crushed black. He attacked without giving black a chance to counterattack or defend himself efficiently, that it felt like it was a one-sided game, that he just crushed black. But for all this, he had a price to pay. He initially gave up a pawn and was willing to give up a second pawn for conducting a successful attack. So that sums up the training games for our Group 1 for the first week of October. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.